What kind of strings do I have on my guitar? Well, when I first started playing the guitar, I didn't know one string from another. I remember the first time I broke a string and I walked into a music store, I didn't know what I was asking for. I said, I need to buy a guitar string. He said, well, which one? I said, the thin one. The thin one. The E? Well, I don't know what name it is, but I know it's this one right here. It's a thin one. He said, okay, that's an E string. So I had to find out the name. What gauge do you want? I don't know. What gauge you got? He said, whatever you want. He said, well, okay, let's try to figure this out. What kind of guitar do you have? I says, an acoustic guitar. What kind of music you play? Well, I guess folk music. Okay. You play fast or do you play a lot of chords? I play a lot of chords. All right, I would suggest you get a 12 gauge E string. Okay, what is a gauge? A gauge is a number assigned to the thickness of a string, a guitar string. Let's start with gauges first. The higher the number, the thicker the string. And just think about it in body weight. If you have somebody that weighs 10 pounds, they're pretty skinny. If you got somebody that weighs 50 pounds, they're a little fatter. So just remember, a 10 gauge string is light. A 50 gauge string is heavy. All guitars that have 6 strings on them start with the lowest, thickest string and go to the thinnest, finest string. Guitar strings come in different sets. They have light gauge, medium, heavy, extra light, and custom light. It all depends on you, the musician. If you're really a bear, big scary hands, and you want to play and project a mile away, you're going to get heavy gauge strings. But if you get heavy gauge strings, again, you've got to have a hand of a bear. It's a lot of tension. If you look on the back of a package of strings, it's going to tell you how many pounds of tension on each string. I prefer a brand called D'Addario. To me, they've got all the bases covered, and also the ball on the end of each string is color-coded. It tells you exactly. Gold goes first, then the red, then the black, then the green, then the purple, then the silver. Piece of cake. I don't even have to have an identifying number on a string to tell me where it goes on the guitar. D'Addario and all the companies also make different types of strings. You have light gauge steel strings, medium gauge, heavy gauge, custom light, and extra light. Extra light are really thin. They might go from a 9 gauge to a 46. So the thickest one is a 46 in thousandths of an inch. In a heavy gauge, this might be a 13 or a 14 up to a 56 or 58. That's pretty heavy. I use 12 to a 53, 12 gauge, which is a light gauge string. Yes, I play a lot, but I don't like to fight the instrument. So I'll get a light gauge string. Steel guitars. You have different types of steel strings. You have bronze strings and you have phosphor bronze. Bronze strings are a real brilliant sound. Like phosphor bronze are a little more mellow. I'm playing on different places on the guitar to demonstrate the difference in sound. It doesn't mean this is phosphor bronze and this is bronze. But, so let's say you want to go with a set of light gauge strings if you're just starting, or even extra light. The only thing you're going to sacrifice with extra light strings is volume. It's going to be much easier to play and much easier to fret. So, my suggestion would be start with a light gauge string. They have steel strings, they have nylon strings for a folk guitar. They also have silk and steel, which is a silk string with a steel core, or a steel string with a silk core. If you look at a classical guitar, you see the first 3 strings are nylon. You can actually see it, a translucent, clear, yellowish nylon. The other 3 look like they're metal. They're nylon core wrapped with silver nickel, okay? That's to give them the depth of the lower notes, but they're still nylon strings. Depending on the size of the instrument, depending on the condition of the instrument, if your fretboard's really high, you want to use extra light because the more tension you pull, the higher you're going to pull that neck. That's another subject, talking about the action or whatever. But light gauge strings, I would suggest go with that to start with. Again, any questions, feel free to call or write the number or the email below.